Welcome to this session, the types of cases that certified legal nurse consultants handle. I'd like to introduce you to two certified legal nurse consultants, Dale Barnes and Doreen Goldstein. Thank you, Dale, and thank you, Doreen, for joining me here today. Certified legal nurse consultants consult on a variety of cases. It could be medical malpractice cases, personal injury, products liability, toxic tort, criminal cases, and even some other types of cases. Dale, what are some of the common cases you're involved in?
Well, mostly medical malpractice and personal injury, but I've certainly also done some products liability, toxic torts, workers' comp, and I've done some criminal cases. I've done some elder abuse cases and elder competency type things.
Okay, do you have any favorites?
No, I like them all because they're all different, and that's what I like about them.
So what's favorite is that you have a lot of variety.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. How about you, Doreen? What kind of cases are you commonly involved in?
So unlike Dale, no, just kidding, just like Dale, I do the same types of cases, mostly medical malpractice and personal injury. I too have done product liability, criminal, workers' comp, but the majority of them, Vicki, are medical malpractice and personal injury / product liability for defense.
Thank you. You know, Dale, a lot of nurses, if they're interested in becoming a legal nurse consultant, they automatically think about medical malpractice and probably even some personal injury kinds of cases. But give a couple of examples of criminal cases that you're involved in, because I don't know that many RNs think about that as much.
I don't think they do. And you don't have to be a forensic certified RN in order to do criminal cases. You know, what you do in them is different than what a perhaps forensic nurse would do. But the kinds of cases I've been involved in, the two that come to my mind first, one was a case from the district attorney's office where a young man in his 20s, probably on drugs, came home, beat the living daylights out of his grandmother. She ended up in the hospital. And what they wanted to know, which actually impressed me, was she eventually died. Was her death a result of the injuries he caused, or did she have pre-existing conditions that may have caused her early demise? So that was a good case to work on because I wasn't testifying, so I didn't have to give a medical opinion in court, which I couldn't have anyway. And another one had to do with a suicide in a psych facility where they criminally charged one of the staff members with negligence, which resulted in this person's suicide.
Okay, thank you. Those are both excellent examples. And I think you really distinguished well the fact that in a criminal case, you're usually commenting less about whether the person has committed a crime and more about what are the injuries and are they really due to these acts that were committed? Yeah, thank you. That's a great clarification. All right, now, Doreen, I know you said you do medical malpractice and personal injury, but you don't do just any type of personal injury cases. So I thought you might want to expand on how you got involved in personal injury and kind of the unique path you've taken.
Sure. Yeah, I exhibited at an attorney conference, and that's how I met general counsel for an elevator company. So the personal injuries that Vicki is talking about is from an elevator or escalator or one of their company cars. So sometimes they're involved in motor vehicle collisions also. So it's pretty unique. My background is obstetrics. So I never thought, 25 years ago when I became a CLNC that I would be working on orthopedic cases. But as Vicki quotes, we are nurses, we can do anything. So it's mostly injuries that claimants or people claim happened when they get stuck in an elevator or injuries on an escalator. Sometimes they're real, sometimes they're not. So I get to use my nursing background and evaluate these cases. So it's been a great learning experience for sure.
Can you talk about a unique case that you've consulted on with the elevator cases?
Sure. Yeah. There was one where a gentleman was in some sort of assisted living facility, I believe, and the doors to the elevator were open. And the circumstance around that, I can't recall what happened. I think maybe it was being repaired. And the gentleman was in a motorized scooter. And they did have the caution tape up in front of the elevators, but this gentleman went straight through, and the trigger on the motorized scooter, he went straight through the elevator. The elevator car was not level with the floor, so he fell, I think it was like 3 or 4 stories, and the scooter fell on top of him. This was a very unfortunate case. There was a death. And what they wanted me to do was to look at this case and, like Dale, to see if the death of this gentleman was caused by anything other than their fault. And in fact, it was. The gentleman had trigger finger. So we were able to kind of link that to, he triggered on the escalator, the scooter, and the scooter went forward into the cavity of the elevator. So it kind of lessened what they had to pay, but it still was something that was very interesting to look at a case that way.
So the plaintiff still won, but
Absolutely.
they were able to mitigate the damages.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Which is a lot of times what happens in my cases, because they only have me look at it when they know that they were negligent. So what I do is I look at the damages and kind of see if they had pre-existing or if their injury was caused from something else. So it's very interesting.
One never knows when opportunity is going to strike. And Dale, I suspect that you've been at this a long time. And when you first started, you probably didn't imagine all the different kinds of cases you'd be involved in. But did you find that your CLNC business did play out differently than you anticipated when you first started many years ago?
Yes, absolutely. Because first of all, I never say no to an attorney, and it's something I truly, truly can't handle. I'll work with a subcontractor, but I've even found ways around some of that. So I step out of my comfort zone a little and do things that are not maybe what I would normally do, or things that I've had a lot of expertise in. But no, I don't think I pictured all of that.
How about you, Doreen?
Yes and no. I mean, as far as owning my own business, that kind of played out the way I thought. But, I think like Dale says, there's always so many opportunities in this field that you don't ever think of when you're taking the class. Never did I think I would be working with a corporation like I do. So yeah, it's been very interesting.
Dale, you mentioned subcontracting, and sometimes when you receive a case, you're definitely going to be outside of your area of expertise. And so I know you said that there's been occasions where you try to figure it out on your own. Can you also say that there's occasions when you feel like, yeah, it is out of my area of expertise, I do need to subcontract it?
Oh, absolutely. And, but sometimes there are things that you can get around. I had a NICU case. This would have been right up Doreen's alley, but I had a NICU case, and yours too, Vicki. But I thought, I've never done NICU. But the question was, because this baby ended up with a skin graft due to extravasation from TPN, they wanted to know if the solution was mixed correctly, if it was going in at the right rate, and all of the things that had to do with it. And what I did, I just sort of stepped out of my comfort zone, and I called completely different hospital, unrelated to where this incident took place. The NICU pharmacist and the NICU hospitalist were both very willing to talk to me. I told them it had nothing to do with them, told them I would give their names to the attorney if this case went further. And it turned out that they both said there is no case here. Everything was done according to the standards of care. So I didn't need to subcontract that. But if it got more detailed, I probably would have.
How about you, Doreen? What do you do when you feel like, okay, I'm in over my head here, and yet I don't want to turn away the business?
So right up front, I do let my attorneys know that I have colleagues that I consult with in various specialties. So just like attorneys don't pretend to know every single area of law, they don't expect us to either. And when you're up front in the beginning and say that, I feel like you have more of that bond and that trust. I had a very interesting case too, Dale, where this attorney had asked me, first of all, he was a real estate attorney, and he asked me to review a deed. And I'm thinking, a deed? I'm a legal nurse consultant, like I know nothing about that. But the case involved handing over the land to his son. And this decedent was on his deathbed when he signed it over to his then wife. So the son was bringing the case forward saying that my father was not competent. He did not ever want her to have that. And so he had me look at it. And what I did is looked at the medical records, and I looked at the medication record, and I was able to then sign the affidavit and say, absolutely, this gentleman was not competent. And he was in the ICU. He was on propofol and morphine, and he couldn't sign his trade consent, never mind the deed. So it was very interesting. I am not an ICU nurse, so I thought, okay, I can't do this. But definitely, Dale, there are times where you do step out of your comfort zone and say, okay, yeah, this is general nursing care and I can do this.
So you're both mentors for the Institute. And how do you help those new certified legal nurse consultants become comfortable taking on some cases that are outside of their comfort zone? Dale?
Well, I usually say to them, and I usually use this as an example, look, you might be an oncology nurse, but when you're an oncology nurse, you still know basic nursing and basic injuries. So if somebody is in a motor vehicle accident, there's no reason you can't take that case. You know, even if they end up in ICU, if the issue is what the injuries were and what the injuries perhaps left them with or without, you're a nurse. You can figure that out. And I've just really tried to give them confidence that their basic nursing knowledge and their experience will allow them to do all of those things.
I think what I do is I just let them know that you can actually do more than you think you can. And sometimes just having that mentor to talk it through and say, okay, here's what I'm thinking. Here's what I'm picturing. Am I on the right track? You know, just having that other person. And yeah, you know, we're not going to give you the answers, but what we're going to do is tell you what works for us and how to go about it. So I think that's probably the most that I do, is let them know that, yeah, you can do this and you are on the right track.
Depending on the case, there's a lot of different services that you offer, and anything from screening a case for merit to doing research to writing reports. And obviously all of those services are covered in the certification program. But I know one of the things that people are often surprised to learn is that when you're working with attorneys, you're not there to tell them what you think they want to hear. You're there to call the case as it is. So sometimes that means telling a plaintiff attorney who represents injured people, this is not a case. And sometimes that means telling a defense attorney who's representing the company or the individual who's being sued that it is a case, right? So how do your attorneys respond to that? Do they express appreciation that you're actually helping them to get to what this case is really about? Dale?
Well, I've had some interesting experiences with that. For the most part, the answer is yes. They really appreciate it because I've just saved them a lot of time and money. But I had one interesting circumstance where an attorney I'd worked with for quite a bit had referred a case to me, and there was no merit. And I had done some research and all that. There was no merit to the case. Well, it turns out that my attorney wasn't really the one who the case first came to. It was referred to him by another attorney. And about 8 months later, the other attorney called me and said, could you please look at this again? I just feel so badly for these people. I want you to look at it again. I said, no. I said, I did all my research. I'm glad to send anything to you if the other attorney did not. But why should you waste your money paying me to tell you what I've already provided for you? So I said no. And I was not going to be pressured into that.
Was he receptive to that message?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. So you're able to have those frank conversations. Again, our job is not to necessarily tell them what they want to hear.
Right.
We tell them what they need to hear. How about you, Doreen? Do you find that they appreciate that you're willing to give them a candid opinion?
Yeah, absolutely. And in my experience, the more confident you are in your opinion, the more the attorney is going to trust what you say. If you go there and say, well, I think, or it could have, or, I mean, yes, you want to tell them the good and the bad in their case, but, we have to make a decision and say, yes, they deviated the standard, or no, they did not deviate the standard based on what I've reviewed today. And they definitely trust our opinion. I have had a few attorneys tell me that they want me for my brains. So they trust us. They know the law, we know the nursing and the medicine part of it.
So I also believe that if you have a longstanding relationship with these attorneys, they trust you, right? I mean, you build trust over time. So I think that attorney that might challenge your opinion in the first or second case, by the time you get to the 10th or 50th case, they're like, yeah, I got it. They begin to trust you more, and they're not so challenging. Thank you so much for sharing some of the types of cases that you're involved in. If you're interested in learning more about the different types of cases, then you can always go to legalnurse.com and learn more there. Or again, just participate in future webinars as well, or contact the office. They're happy to answer any questions that you've got. Thank you very much. And thank you, Doreen and Dale. Appreciate your help.